Hello.
Hello.
Can you all hear me? We played around with this mic for a little while, and it is pretty new, so we're just still getting used to it. So welcome. I'm Michelle Abramo. I'm the president of the Seminole Historical Society, and I'm glad to see all of you here. If you don't mind, first, we'd like... Where did my... Oh, we moved it over here. If we wouldn't mind standing for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
And just as a note, we all hear about our federal government and our state governments, but the reality is our local and city governments probably have more impact on our lives than anybody. And I've lived in the Seminole area for 35 years and always been impressed by the quality of local government that we have here. And in the last 2 years, I have been incredibly impressed by the responsiveness of the city to the community. And as I said, I'm not an actual resident, but I've always been welcomed with open arms to the Seminole city government. And that's why this evening I was real pleased to be able to have Ann Toney-Deal come in and join us as our speaker. Ann comes to us from 20 plus years of experience, the last being at Haines City in the city manager position. And she's here tonight to give us a review of where Seminole came from in 2017 and the plans for the future of the city. So please welcome Ann Toney-Deal.
It is a pleasure to be here tonight, and thank you, Jeff, for extending the invitation and to the Historical Society. This is my second time speaking here, and I certainly enjoy it every time that I'm present. I will tell you that Jim Quinn, one of our counselors, is hosting a fundraiser at Seminole Gardens for the Cancer Society. So he gets an excused absence tonight, because as you know, he's very good about attending all of your meetings. This has been a very exciting year in Seminole, and you just have to look around our community to know that there is a lot happening. I do not do that. One of the things that I do, and for those of you who have heard me speak before, you know that I always have a few quotes, so you can think about that. So even if what I say may not be interesting, I hope that my quotes are. Short-term thinking is the greatest enemy of good government. Boy, is that true. Just think if our founding fathers only thought short-term, where we would be today. So, especially at the local level, long-term thinking is always very important, and we're very blessed to have 7 elected officials, your city councilors, who are thinking long-term for you.
You're going the wrong way.
Maybe that's why it's fussing. The city of Seminole is a council manager form of government. And I always take an opportunity just to tell just a little bit about our form of government, because there's always 1 or 2 people that may be new to the community. And what that means is that we are set up just like a Fortune 500 company. The stockholders are our citizens. They elect the board of directors, who are 7 elected officials, and the mayor is one of those 7 who serves as chairman of the board. And that board selects the CEO, who's your city manager. The CEO is a full-time employee, and all employees for the city report to the CEO. They do hire an independent legal counsel who reports directly to them, just as you would in the private sector. Very pleased tonight that Marion Chamberlain from our library, who's active in her attendance often here, is present tonight because she's one of our city employee team members. These are the elected officials. So if you see them in public, you'll know what they look like. And I think most of you are very familiar, and that's a good thing about a city. Almost all of you recognize our elected officials. I'm sure that you don't recognize all of our state representatives, our state senators, our U.S. congressmen, our U.S. senators. And so this is the government closest to the people. And that's why I enjoy working there, because these people, they're not just elected officials, they're your neighbors. And you see them in public, you see them in Walmart, you see them at church. And so they're not strangers to anyone. The City of Seminole has about a $17 million budget. And where do our tax dollars come from? And a lot of people, and I used to love this when I was sitting in a meeting and somebody would get up and go, well, I pay taxes. Well, good, that we do appreciate that, but when they say I pay taxes, that's the taxes they're talking about. It makes up 18% of the Seminole budget. Now, in the community, other communities, when they say I pay taxes, they may be really talking serious because it makes up 40% of the city's budget or it's 50%. But to be 20% or lower is a wonderful place to be because when the market goes down, you're not as affected as you otherwise would be. So one of the reasons Seminole weathered the storm, so to say, during what they call a recession, I guess, they never would call it that, but is because of that low amount. The other things, as you know, we have a very large fire department. We have approximately 20,000 residents, but we serve an area with a population of over 100,000 for our fire service, and that's why we have 4 fire stations. And because of that, the county pays us 70% of our fire budget to provide fire services because we're providing it to the county, and that's the ratio. Every year, they reevaluate the ratio of in the city, outside of the city, and they pay proportionally. So that's why your fire budget is such a large part. And you'll notice it comes in and it goes out. And you will notice that the tax dollars I think that was mislabeled. Hold on. That's the fund source. And that is not where the dollars go. But anyway, when you look at where the dollars go proportionately, almost the exact percentage that comes in from the county, you add the city's 30%, it then goes out again. So anytime you look at our budget, you're going to think, why are they spending so much money on fire? Well, it's because we do have money coming in and money going out. So one thing that our council is very proud about is our millage history. If you go back in time, to 1997, which is right here, this was your millage rate. It was about 3.5 mils, which is still very low. I can tell you many cities in Florida are bumping up against the 10 mil cap. A city can have a millage rate of up to 10 mils without going to a referendum. And this amount, even there, is low. But you see the pattern, and then another drop. And for 11 straight years, we have been in the 2.67, 2.6-ish area. So basically, we flatlined it right there. And for 11 consecutive years, we have been low. So what does that mean to Seminole? Well, is there anybody who hasn't heard me show this slide before and talk about it that can tell me something about everybody who's above Seminole and how low their millage rate is? The word shore, beach, shores, beach, shores, beach, beach, beach. They can charge a lesser amount because their taxable value is way up here, and that little bit generates a lot of money. So Seminole, even above Seminole in millage rate, you have communities that are beach communities, St. Pete Beach, Treasure Island. So in essence, we are one of the lowest, but we are clearly the lowest non-beach community in our millage rate. And it's 2.4793, and I did 6. All right. We're going to get to talking about a little bit of things that are going on in Seminole. Change is the law of life, and those who look only to the past or present are certain to miss the future. John Kennedy. So let's look at a before. Anybody recognize that building? What was that building called? What business was there?
Roadhouse.
Roadhouse Grill, right. 9 years, I believe, that property's been vacant. Opened last week. Second location of Pinellas County. The first is at St. Pete Beach. And I took that picture, and it's not the best picture in the world. But anyway, go by there, and it's just startling how different it is. They even have the fountains working in the retention pond around it. PDQ, does anybody remember what that corner looked like a year ago? The old gas station with the fence up. Is this better? Okay. So we were very happy, and they had, instead of a ribbon cutting, they had a flag raising last week. And our city council and myself were honored to be able to be in
I can
attendance.
tell you what, on Sunday morning at 10 o'clock, they opened up, and right before they opened up, they announced that the first 50 people in line will get a surprise. So my daughter and my son went out there at 6:30 in the morning. And each one of them got a $50 gift certificate, which is $100 in our family.
Yes.
They got a pair of sunglasses, they got a drinking fountain, a t-shirt, and they got a free dinner. Well, how can you beat that? And today they were putting trees in there.
Yes, in fact, they had said like the lawn medics or something, because I drove through and took that picture, so. The next item, does anybody remember this? Yes. Look familiar? Probably a lot of you shopped there. It was closed by the time I moved here, but after. What a difference a few years makes. Studio Movie Grill is the latest large tenant of the mall that's opened, and we're hearing a lot of feedback from it. And I couldn't resist taking that picture. This picture was taken at 10 minutes till 3 today. And what do you find unusual now that I told you it's taken at 10 minutes till 3 today?
All the parking spaces are taken.
Not a single parking space
Yeah.
on that road. And I thought, it's 10 till 3. It's a Wednesday, and what's going on? You probably recognize a few of those people. Part of the change we're talking about was the groundbreaking in our waterfront park. Then, after the groundbreaking, was the ribbon cutting. And people enjoying the canal. Now, you may say, why is that opening so narrow? Well, because we have to get permitting from the state and the Water Management District. And they were very specific about how wide the mangroves could be opened up. And we took a ruler, I didn't, the team that was doing it took a ruler to the inch. It is wide enough. If it grows out a little bit, we can trim it back to that point, but that is the width we were allowed. There will be future grants at this park. We have $100,000 waiting from the legislature. We have another $200,000 that we have reason to believe that we're going to get, and we will be doing further improvements, which will include some decking that will allow handicap accessibility. There's a pretty large drop when you go down now because the Water Management District and the Army Corps of Engineers have jurisdiction, and they wouldn't let us cut into the ground there without additional permitting. So, but if you put a board over it going down, and you can control the slope at that point. So there's a lot of things coming in the future. And this is a playground feature, and that element was required with the grant money that the city got to purchase the park. And this is probably 18 feet tall, 14, 18 feet tall. It's very large. In fact, excuse me. 17.9 is what Councilor Springer said. But when you get there, it's just overwhelming. It's been very popular with the children in the area. It is the first playground apparatus of this nature in the southeast United States. And the outside of it is solid wood. Yes, ma'am. She's waving because she can't hear me. This is the first one in the southeast United States, and the outside of it is solid wood. Not the road, but the framing has a lifetime guarantee. Right next door here, major park improvements were done the past year, and if you are here very often during the daylight hours, you will see an unbelievable amount of children. In fact, we were doing some visioning at staff meeting today, and Becky said on the apparatus that spins, if she could somehow get that to generate electricity, it could buy the park. So the kids are constantly using it, but if we patent that, our city will be really financially well off. State Fire Station 32, it will replace an existing station. The joke in staff was, and I was very honest, when I interviewed for this job, we went on a tour. Well, we went and pulled up at Station 32, and the chief just told us about that we're going to be building a new station, and this is Station 32, and it covers this area, but we don't have time to go in. So when I got here, she said something about, well, we were going to stations, we need to go to Station 32 and see the crew that works here. And I said, well, I thought that was an abandoned station. And of course, that became the joke that even the city manager thought that building was abandoned because it was not structurally the way it needed to be for our employees. And so one of the very first things that I was told when I got here is we need to make sure this building is built. And we're very pleased. It was a little over $2 million, and it was a joint project between the city and the county, the same split that we do for our budget, the 70-30. And that is located just outside of our city limits. But if you see a fire truck with 32 on it, you'll know that that's where it's housed. And so that was a very happy day. A segue to this is because this is one of our public safety buildings. The building also was built to a Category 5. So it joins any number of our buildings in the city that are Category 4 and 5 for the storm. And of course, we had no damages at that building during Irma. During Irma, I was interviewed for the paper, and they were talking about our first responders, and I said, which one? Because every single city employee were first responders. And Miriam can tell you that she works at the library, but she was part of our recovery effort. Your library director, Michael, and several other staff members were walking through the neighborhoods handing out flyers with information about trash collection and debris removal, and where you could go to a cool place where you could get water. And many days we were out in the field, and like Councilor Springer she called me, she goes, I see you're going old school. And I said, yeah, you got to go old school when you have no electricity. And so you need to be prepared to go old school, where you get out in the field and you hand out papers and you talk to the people. And our staff from the various departments did that. We also had library staff and recreation staff cleaning the parks. This is the first park in this area of the county that was clean and ready for kids. Because what happened as soon as the electricity's off and the shelters can't be empty, Bowder Elementary can't open even if you had electricity, because you couldn't get the people to go home from the shelters until they had a place to go. So what do the kids do? There's no electricity, there's no TV, they can't recharge their cell phones. Life was over as they knew it. So guess what? They came to the park. And that was very important to us, that we got the park up and running. One of the things that I also need to remind you of is we have a Citizens Academy coming up. And that will be April 4th through May 9th. How many of you have gone through the Citizens Academy? Councilor Springer, Michelle, you went to the Citizens Academy, didn't you?
No, not yet, not yet.
Well, I know you're on CERT.
Right.
And our CERT team was very involved with our recovery effort. Another Citizens Academy graduate in the back. Which class were you?
Oh, I think it's about 3.5 years ago now,
So you were probably the first class.
I believe.
Because I think there'd only been one when I got here. And so it's an exciting time. If you have not gone through the Citizens Academy, and you can give up a Wednesday night, can they miss at least a couple of meetings?
No.
No.
I did it during the summertime. It was one that ended, so I think I missed one meeting so that I could do it.
It's April 4th through May 9th, Wednesday nights, and at 6 to 8, there will be one night that will go to 8:30, because we're combining recreation and the library, because spring break was what typically would be our first week, and too many people are out of town spring break, and senior staff, a couple of them would not have been available. So we started it 1 week later and combined it. So if you're interested in going to the Citizens Academy, you can call me, or you can go to our website. It's going to be posted on there, the information and the application, and our fire chief, Heather Burford, will be coordinating it this year. And then what's coming up March 9th, 10th, and 11th? March 9th, 10th, and 11th. It is the 50th anniversary of Powwow. Powwow started before the city of Seminole was incorporated. So it will have its 50th birthday before the city does. So Powwow is that weekend with a parade on Saturday at 10. And I know that all of you will be there to support it. Some of you are on the Powwow committee. And you can't have a powwow without recognizing our history. That's what it's all about. And we have just a rich history in the powwow. I think it started as a fundraiser for the volunteer fire department, and they sold chickens, and it just has evolved into something very important for the city. And one of the reasons it's so important, and if you belong to a nonprofit group that participates in powwow, you will know you pay probably $50 and a certain percentage of what you make. Well, the reason you do that is that the event is a fundraiser for the recreation department. And we don't hide that fact. We are doing that for the community, for entertainment, but also to make money, because all of our city events, Winterfest, Music in the Park, free admission. And we do that so we can put on programs throughout the year and not charge our residents, especially our children. So now that doesn't mean summer recreation and things like that are special, but for our community-wide events, we do everything for free. And I will tell you that our recreation department spends no general fund revenue in putting on those events. Now, we do pay for the staff, but the event cost is either paid by sponsorships or the money raised at powwow. So support the powwow, because all the money that goes into that program goes right back into recreation and right back into our community. And we're very proud of that. Becky Gunner, our rec director, likes to remind the other directors about how much her department is self-sufficient and raises its own money. So powwow is a big part of that. Let me answer questions first. Is there any questions? Because I know I didn't do such a good job. I answered everything you wanted to know. Michelle?
The waterfront park, will there be facilities there, tables to sit, around the recreation ball or
Yes.
whatever, that kind of stuff?
We were under the gun
Right.
to get the first phase done, because the grant that had been issued many years ago, we had a deadline on. So the commitment was a phase one with a canoe kayak launch, a playground element, and picnic tables. So we do have a couple of picnic tables there now. It's near the water. The additional phases, in no particular order, are planned to be an all-access playground, the back part closest to the mangrove area and furthest away from the water, a military Court of Honor memorial type location, and parking. And each of those elements will have picnic facilities. We are building a bathroom facility. And she said, thank you. A bathroom facility. And we are going to have a gazebo of sorts. That will be a topic probably of a workshop, because we may have a little bit larger gazebo than what you would typically see, so that if somebody wanted to get married there, or if you wanted to have a three-piece band in the evening or something, that it would accommodate that. Nothing set up as like over here back up against the water, but something that could be used for many purposes, including picnicking or a family outing. So we're looking at the gazebo, bathrooms, the military Court of Honor or memorial, and the all-access playground. And if any of you belong to a nonprofit group that's looking for a very worthy cause as a project, you can purchase these all-access playgrounds, and they're not just for children with challenges in using playground equipment. They're made so all children can use it, so that it's not just, you can only use this piece if you're in a wheelchair. Well, no, you can use it if you're in a wheelchair or you're not in a wheelchair. So there's a lot of thought, so if you have a family with 5 kids and only one has a challenge using certain equipment, that child can play side by side with the other 4 children. So needless to say, that's very expensive, but it is like a big puzzle piece. You can buy it in modules, and so we will probably start buying different modules. We have had one civic group approach us with an interest of perhaps being a sponsor of one of the modules, and they are not inexpensive, but they are certainly a wonderful addition to the park, and that's one of the city council's goals, is to have this. And it's not just Seminole. There are not any all-access parks in this part of the county. And so we have a lot of children who are underserved and families who are underserved. So it's going to be a dual purpose. It is it will never have motorized vehicles. That's prohibited in the park. So it's always going to be kayaks and canoes, anything you can paddle with. And then we will have the use of the playground, military Court of Honor. Hopefully we will have military functions like Memorial Day, Veterans Day, things like that at that location. So you will notice that there is an ornamental fence that's already up and a gate very similar to the gate here. that will allow people in during the day and keep them out at night. So, yes, sir.
That's gonna be a big area, the way you're speaking, do you have the acreage or how big it's gonna be?
It is, I believe, it's not that big. Really, a lot of-
That's what it is, but the way you're talking, it's gonna
It's not gonna be
develop
spread
into
out.
something like a Lake Seminole or something,
Oh,
you
no,
know.
by
And
no
it's supposed-
means.
I haven't been there yet, it's supposed to be by, what you call it,
Right, and you just, and I'm glad you brought that up, this property, when you pass Home Depot,
yeah,
it's the vacant lot on your right that now has a decorative fence. And the playground element that I showed you is not gonna look very big from the road, it's because it's in the very back,
right.
but when you go in, but it's kind of, the part, if you look at the park, it's gonna be kind of like in 4 sections. The playground in this section, the canoe, kayak, and we're gonna be putting a wash down area for the kayaks and canoes. Then the front part would be your military, and then over here would be parking. Now, we already have paved parking, but some of it probably will remain grass parking, because the reason for that is it makes the park look more inviting. When it's not being used, kids can do pick-up football games, and, you know, it's like the old story about Christmas. What toy did your child play the most with? The cardboard box. So you'll build all these things, and then you'll find kids with soccer balls, footballs, making their own fun, as long as you can keep a vacant track. But if you have an event, then do overflow parking. So it is not very large.
Yeah,
We're just doing a
you know,
lot in a
I'm
little.
not visualizing that, I have to go out and look at it myself. I really like the old restaurant that used to be there.
I talked about Jesse's
Personally,
Landing.
but yeah, that was nice.
Yeah, in fact, I saw a picture of Jesse's Landing not long ago, and I'm like, wow, that was a
That
very
was a neat
attractive
place,
look.
man.
Yes,
It
sir.
really was.
Yes, I was just wondering, could you elaborate just a little bit on the Citizens Academy? Because I have no idea what it is.
I certainly can. The Citizens Academy is the time frame I told you. It's once a week on Wednesday, and you visit every department in the city. So the first night, which is the best night, you have the city manager. Library night's the best. That's right. I had to say that because Mary from the library. But the first night is the city manager, the city clerk, and the human resource director and finance director. So it's kind of like the internal service group at City Hall. We're the desk people and the people that handle your money and things like that. And then, in no particular order, and I would give it out of order if I tried, but one night you have Public Works and Community Development. So you meet at the Public Works Department that night, and we tell you every week where to meet and give you a map. And the Public Works tells you about what they do. You do a tour of their building, and the EOC Center, where we were housed during Irma, which is across the street, and Mark Ely, the Community Development Director, has probably, and no offense, as far as just presentations, slideshow, the first time I saw his slideshow, I'm like, I'm going to steal half of his slides. I don't know where he got all of them, but he talks to you the importance of building codes and regulations, and he has some outrageous things that make you be really glad that you live in a state and a city that does have regulations. So he does a very engaging presentation, and you eat. That's real important. And every department kind of competes about who has the best food. And so one night you may have Cuban, and one night you may have pizza, and the next night you may have Chinese, and you just come prepared to eat. And you know, we love to eat, every one of us. So that's always very good. Library, you actually go to the library. This year we're combining library and rec, adding the time, and you're going to park at rec. And we have a bus at rec, and everybody's going to get on the bus, and we're going to drive you over to the library. You're going to spend the first half of the day at the library, and then the second half over at rec. And part of it is you tour the building, you meet the staff, and then you have an opportunity to ask questions about what they do. And then the fire department, we meet at Station 29. There's a large training room here. They bring in their senior management. They talk to you about fire. You get to see the fire trucks and fire hoses and all those wonderful things about fires. And while you're there, it's almost guaranteed that a bell's going to go off and the station's going to empty because they have a fire call to go to. And normally, 85% of our calls are for medical. So not everybody leaves, just the people that operate the emergency medical vehicle. Then we do a contract with the sheriff. So one night we meet actually at the Elmerton Road Sheriff's Office, and Sheriff Galtieri, almost all, I think every year he has personally been there. And then he arranges for some demonstrations, whether it's a canine or whether he has some new equipment, and we go out back and he shows us his new things that they use. It's always a very popular night. And of course you get in and you go through the metal detectors and all that. You feel like benefits are going into the Capitol or something, but it's always a very exciting time. So basically you learn about every single city department. We wrap up. The last meeting is an ice cream social with the city council. And you get to put everything you've learned into place, and we do a mock city council meeting where actually people from the Citizens Academy are the mayor, the commissioners, the council members, the city manager, the city attorney, and the various department heads. And depending on how many people we have, everybody has a role, and then we do an agenda where the subjects will capture everybody participating. And that is always fun, because our city councilors get to be the citizens. So they get to walk up and complain about the project. They get to walk up and complain or ask questions about the progress on the project. So and we pretty much prepare our academy members for that night. And it's just a really fun night. And then the first council meeting following the conclusion of the academy, you come to the city council meeting, and the mayor and council members present you with your certificate of completion that you've now graduated. Now, those two things were added since you were in the academy.
I want to do it again after you describe it that way.
Well, you can come back because you can say, you do it different now. So I was blessed to have done a Citizens Academy where I worked before, so I brought a few things that we had tried and worked very well here and added to an already really good Citizens Academy. So I think that the additions have made it just a little different. So, yes, ma'am.
Does it cost to be a student at this academy?
No.
All right,
There
so
is no cost, and your staff is there after hours, and we love it. Every staff member loves it, and it's always fun. And sometimes we get volunteers for city boards out of it. In fact, my news story is we got a city employee out of it. We had a lady who was retired, and she thought, I think I would like to work part-time in the Parks Division. So she started working part-time. Well, she loved it so much, it was a full-time opening, she applied and got it. So now, one of our citizens that lives in our city, that went through the academy, who was retired, and I wish I could put her on a copying machine. And Michelle knows who I'm talking about. She is the face of the city. She is so excited about everything, and she's so enthusiastic. But that interest all started with her going through the Citizens Academy. So we've been very fortunate that we have really engaged a lot of citizens. You do not have to be a city resident to participate. We open it up to the Seminole community. We do encourage our citizens to participate, but every year we do have some non-city residents, because I know like the others, Jeff often says, I don't live in the city, but I think he shops here, he is all around the community. And we do not turn away volunteers just because you don't live in the city. So if you come through our program and you want to volunteer at Powwow, welcome to Powwow. So we are not exclusionary that you have to live in the city. It's just you have to have an interest. And we would ask that you be committed to attending all the sessions. And we understand somebody's going to get sick and you can't come. And we're okay with that. Or you look at the time and there's 1 week. Your son has a high school chorus function, and you have to be there, and you should be there. But if that, we just ask that you commit to be there as many nights as you can, because our staff works very hard in putting their presentations together. And you'll have a book, and at the end, every time you get a handout, it'll be 3-hole punch. At the end, you'll have a whole book that tells you everything you need to know, afraid to ask about the city. Yes, sir.
Yes, we're new to the area. We came in December, and one of the requirements was we wanted to be incorporated Seminole. We've been coming down here for 10 years, Treasure Island running, and I'm very impressed. I did a powwow 1 years ago. We had the 5K. It was a boring run through the parking lot, I have to admit, but very, very impressed. The feel that you're closer to government. Very impressed with the mayor, from my contact with her, the Deputy Mayor Roger. And I have to say, for being New Jersey, I have a question for you. Why is the county so strong in Florida when you get into incorporated, unincorporated? What is the history behind that? Because in New Jersey, we have low taxes, that's I'm only kidding, okay?
Yeah, I know that, sir, because my finance director grew up in New Jersey.
Okay.
So that's why I'm laughing at you saying that.
So I say, I'm from New Jersey, where are you from, right? But, no, the bottom line is, our sheriff, our county is very, very weak. Our sheriff, they just take, they're in charge of the county courts and things. Here, your sheriff is almost like a state police officer in New Jersey. What is the history? How did that happen? The counties are so strong in Florida versus any other state.
Well, I'm not sure I can give you a history of that.
Well, no,
Maybe
you don't have
that
enough
would
time.
be, but I will tell you that every county there are different type counties. In this county, it's really interesting. Our county does have a lot of power, but there is more population in incorporated areas than unincorporated areas, which is very unusual. Because normally, the counties have this large unincorporated area. And I will share with you a few years ago, Broward County was the first county that got its legislation, or its local legislative delegation to pass a law that X number of years, everybody had to annex into some city or form their own, and there'd be no more county. And the county services would be those of health and human services and things like that. My opinion is that we find ourselves in the situation where the counties being so powerful because so many years there were so many cities that needed services that they either were not incorporated to provide or they couldn't afford. And so you start depending on the larger group to do. Then a lot of counties started becoming charter counties. Therein lies how they got a lot of power, because I lived in Polk County, which is the side border in Delaware or Rhode Island. It's in Central Florida, and they were not a charter county when I grew up there. And then I worked in South Florida, came back and was a manager there, and it was during that time they became a charter county. And basically the county has the power that the people gave it. And but the county got so much power because they were providing services. They were like transportation, health and human services, and they covered the whole area. And the city's focused on what I call the boutique services, garbage pickup, the recreation, library, and things like that. So in every county, it may be more powerful, the county may be more powerful or less powerful. And a lot of it is the amount of power that was given to them by the charter that was voted on by the people for the county.
How aggressive are you to get more people incorporated into Seminole?
Seminole would love to have you.
Well,
and
they
if
do
you're-
have me, so,
Well, no, I mean, if you're not annexed in,
right.
if we meet with you, we will try to figure out a way, and if you have 4 other neighbors in between you and the city, we are very welcoming to people who want to annex. The city council would like to annex more. I will tell you, if you go on the website, you can actually put in some information, and it will tell you how much you pay in the county, how much you pay in the city. We recently tweaked that to make it more understandable. But the average homeowner with the average electric bill will pay less if they're incorporated in the Seminole than they are paying in the county once you take your ad valorem taxes and all your special assessments, because a lot of your special assessments drop off when you come into the city of Seminole. So if you are interested in annexing, or you know somebody that is, we certainly would be willing to talk to you and look on the map and see how close you are, because we may have had 3 other people from your area talk. And at some point, you would be able to come in. At the last council meeting, we annexed 4 single-family homes. It wasn't but a few months ago, we annexed a whole subdivision, 2 homeowners, and I think they both may have small children and figured out that they get a free rec card if you're in the city, and just that alone was enough savings to make them want to come in. And then all of a sudden, they don't have to pay their fire assessment because we have our own fire department that little bit of ad valorem pays for. And so they did the math. And we had 17 homes come in one night. We had the first reading 1 week, and 2 weeks later had the second reading, because they ran the numbers and figured out it cost me less to live in the city of Seminole than it does to continue to be an unincorporated Pinellas County, and I have more services.
But that issue's been hotly debated for years, right? And there's a lot of documentation online. You can see the pros and cons on both sides, so something you may want to research a little further. I just know it's been a hot topic for many, many years.
And I know that there were many years that predated me, that there was a very active annexation effort, and there were some animosities lost, or animosities exhibited between the two sides because, and probably none of the elected officials were in place in the county or the city. In fact, some of the people at the county probably were city council members in other cities at the time. But the county starts losing some of its monies when you annex. So they had an interest in fact, recreation was a big draw for Seminole. So there was a program for a while, I believe, where the county set up a fund that if you live in that incorporated area, they would pay your rec fee at Seminole to keep you from annexing.
Well, when is it too big? When is Seminole too big? I saw Mark. High
We're not too big.
When, what is too big for Seminole, in your opinion? For incorporated Seminole, I'm talking about.
There's no downside to getting bigger.
Okay.
I don't see any downside because we are, and we certainly wouldn't annex it, but it didn't make sense to physically. In other words, if we were annexing properties that would be high demand on services and low taxes, et cetera, you may want to rethink that because you don't want the other taxpayers to augment that. But we are not surrounded by any areas because when Broward County passed that law, everybody annexed where they wanted to annex or incorporate, and you had little pockets that would not be good to annex in, and nobody wanted them. So the legislature said either somebody annex them in, or we're going to tell you where they're going. But around Seminole, I don't think we have any area that wouldn't be advantageous to them and to us coming into our city.
Thanks for answering the question.
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
So we're all waiting. Will the lucky bill come or not?
You know what? For a year now, that's probably been one of my top 3 questions.
They were like the first ones to be talked about.
They were one that seemed like it was sure. In fact, for those of you that went to the grand opening, they're the ones that had the cakes about that high and were multicolored, and they were cutting pieces of cake. They were at the ribbon cutting for them all. But a decision to go forward with a lease is always a business decision, and we are not privy to that. So it was represented to us, it was a pretty done deal, and of course with them being at the opening, serving cake with their little card saying lucky deal would make you believe they're coming. But the last time I read in the paper, in the Beacon, it appears that that's not 100%, but it's not off the table either. But we have had a couple of interesting inquiries from people who have called us, and I don't know whether they've talked to the mall owners yet. If Lucky Deal doesn't come, bouncing off a mark, and we were just like, wow, yeah, that's interesting.
How long will we hold out? How long will the city hold out?
Well, it's not the city, it's the owner of the mall. Yeah, so that's really, we are supportive, as long as the business is zoned properly for that area. We're supportive of whomever the mall would sign in there. And we've been very pleased with the businesses that have opened. We've received a lot of positive feedback in the community, and I think the parking lot speaks for itself. Yes, sir?
Yeah, I was asked to ask you tonight, is Outback Steakhouse coming in Seminole?
Yes, and that's the last out parcel on 113th Street. So you have to
Any
bank.
idea when it's coming in?
No. I can definitely tell you that. I do know, though, that they have brought their building plans in because we have design criterion in the development agreement that the mall had with the city, and it has to have certain design standards. And I know that if they have not finished that process, they're very close. And so they are so far enough along that we are reviewing their plans.
Because a lot of the employees up at the Outback up there are saying they're coming down here. That's why I'm wondering. But they are gonna close that one up, or...
Okay, I heard it from the same grapevine you did. They never told me that as a corporation, so I've heard it, but I cannot confirm that that's true.
But talk about unincorporated, I just want to, I live in unincorporated, Pinehurst County. I have a St. Pete mailing address, and my mail comes through Deer Beach.
It is a mess in some respects. In fact, we recently, in case any of you received a letter from Duke Energy, if you have a Largo address and you live in the city of Seminole, please see me, because we've started getting phone calls, and there was a snafu in Duke, and they identified areas in our incorporated Seminole and sent them a letter saying, sorry, we haven't been charging you the municipal franchise fee that we're supposed to charge, state law. And we're going to start charging you, and it's going to be this much on your bill to go to the city of Largo. So we started getting calls going, we thought we live in Seminole. You do live in Seminole. Well, so actually, we charge less franchise fee. Our council set a lower franchise fee than Largo. So they're still going to be paying a franchise fee, but it's not going to be as much as if they were in Largo. So for some reason, the 33777 number, or zip code, some of the people got that letter. And we got 4 for light poles that we own on 102nd. So the city of Seminole was told we're going to start sending money to Largo. But that's been straightened out. But if that came to you, we're trying to determine the areas where that snafu happened so we can go back and check later to make sure it got corrected. Yes, sir.
I know this may be more of a county question. Any idea what's happening with the water tower property?
That is a very good county question, but I can tell you that my community development director does periodically look to see what's going on in the county, and I believe he told me a couple of weeks ago that he saw where the staff was taken to the county commission to get permission to sell it. But that's about the last thing that I have heard, but that was just, he happened to see that and shared it with me. Yes, sir.
Likewise, any update on the status of Lake Seminole, the cleanup project, the start date?
Yes, we had a fairly lengthy presentation on that, and I really don't remember exactly when it started, but when you go to leave me your card, and I think I might have a handout I can email to you on that. But the county is going forward with that cleanup, and they're looking at some staging areas to take the muck out and set it up. So hopefully that'll be a reality. I know Councilor Quinn likes to fish for bass, and he envisions bass fishing there. It'll be the bass fishing home for the whole state of Florida. We'll have major bass tournaments, and I hope he's right. Yes, sir.
Do you have any information on the new Chamber of Commerce building? Would it be over there near the park?
I do,
Yeah.
and if I were speaking next month, I could tell you all about it.
We invite you back.
All I will tell you is watch the newspaper sometime in February, and you're going to be very pleased. It's going to be good news for our community. And also watch the newspaper, because if I told you I'd have to take your mouth shut for the next month. But within the next month, there's going to also be another major announcement about the city of Seminole and some economic development efforts. So, and jobs and things like that. And one thing I didn't tell you about jobs, every time we get a new business, we get new jobs, is it would be of interest to you that at our mall, we have, I thought I wrote the number down. Yes, 755 new jobs just in the mall, and they're
That's great.
estimating 244. So these are the top announcements I'm talking about where we get really excited about somebody's going to redevelop something or develop something. And so and some people are bringing annexing, so there's a lot of things happening, and so just keep your ears to the ground. And if I were coming a month from now, I hopefully will have more good news for you, but maybe you can say, now I know what she was talking about. But as it relates to the chamber, we're very excited about the plans that they're going to be advancing in the month of February.
Good.
So, all right, I'm going to close because Michelle's giving me the hook.
No. Just to say thank you. I do want to say Citizens Academy was great. I lived in this area for 25 years and have been a volunteer for many, and I was so surprised at the things that I still didn't know that I learned in every department. So I would encourage all of you, if you're at all interested in where you live, it's a great opportunity to learn more and meet more people in our community. And we are really, really lucky that we have a great city and city employees, and they're out and about just like we are. So Ann, thank you very much. This is our little goodie bag. It's got some good stuff in it. And for those of you who are subjected to hear
speak to other groups, you know I typically have a quote to end a presentation, so as a thought to leave you with. And this is the quote today. Yesterday is history, tomorrow is a mystery, today is a gift from God, which is why they call it the present.
Today we have refreshments around the corner here, and if this is your first time in our museum, please walk around and check them out. Thank you for coming.
I was going to